People spent millions to buy a house, but it turned out to be a rotten construction project. You see, this is a wall. You can dig it off with your hands. Do you think you should report him? Look, it would be strange if this house didn't collapse. When the window falls off, don't say I didn't install it properly. You see, this house is built so poorly that you can pull it apart with your hands. This house is going to fall down. This is a rotten construction project. Do you think you should report him? You see, this is still a new community. The construction team used a crane to dismantle the old bridge piers. After drilling away the outer layer of reinforced concrete, sand continued to flow out from inside the bridge pier. I originally thought the inside of the bridge pier was made of bricks, but I didn't expect it to be filled with sand. What is the principle here? China's economy is in decline. Real estate giants such as Evergrande and Country Garden have been hit by major financial storms. Local governments and developers have run out of money. Cutting corners and reducing material quality have become very common. More and more rotten projects are being exposed. Some buildings are cracked, some foundations are sinking, and sewers are unusable. Today, we are going to talk about China's scum projects. At around 7 a.m. on November 18th, the roof of an ice skating hall suddenly collapsed in Baicheng City, Jilin Province, leaving the scene in ruins. Official staff stated, "The cause of the accident is initially determined to be deformation of the roof steel structure, possibly due to certain problems with construction quality." Fortunately, no casualties were reported. The video showed the roof of the skating hall suddenly collapsing. Almost the entire roof fell, and the scene was filled with smoke and dust. Woman said, "It collapsed." How scary is that? Man said at 7 or 8 in the morning, the police and firefighters came, but without medical staff. There should be no casualties. The ice skating hall has a construction area of 7,077 square meters and was designed to meet the needs of indoor competitions such as short track speed skating, figure skating, curling, and other sports. There are 3 floors plus a basement. The first floor mainly serves as competition venues, the second floor as activity rooms and gyms, and the third floor as training classrooms. Some netizens questioned, after investing 50 million, it collapsed within a few years. How was it inspected and approved back then? Some people are greedy. To put it bluntly, this is a man-made disaster. There was also a recent collapse incident in Kunming City, Yunnan Province, where a supermarket's roof caved in, causing many customers to fall into the river. On July 1st, the owner of the Greenland Intercity Space Station community in Zhuzhou, Hunan, reported that the ceiling of the new building could be easily penetrated with plastic pipes, causing water and mud to fall like dust. "I bought a house like this for a few 100,000 yuan. This small plastic pipe can penetrate the floor. Can this house even be lived in? If I keep poking it, I suspect it might puncture the entire floor. Can we build a house like this? It feels very loose, as if it was filled directly without adding any cement. Honestly, it's scary to look at, and it feels like poking a hole in the sky." We asked the developer to check the quality problems in each house, and he said, "Let the owners check it themselves. It feels like the whole house is shaking after jumping." The earthquake resistance doesn't meet the requirements, does it? After the decoration is finished, will furniture or other items suddenly fall down? Our safety is also at risk. According to the developer's general contractor, this is a small defect in quality. In reality, the handover conditions were not met, and the acceptance process completely failed. What developers are doing now is pre-delivery. If the acceptance conditions and standards haven't been met, how can owners move in to renovate? Aren't you worried? We are very worried, but there's nothing we can do. We're being forced into this situation. The developer responded that the lack of cement strength was a minor flaw and that it would be fine as long as the building could be delivered. The owner, Mr. Chen, felt helpless. They spent tens of thousands on a house in a school district, but had no choice but to move in so their children could attend a good school. At present, the owner's appeals have been to no avail. Analysts believe that the CCP authorities focus solely on the pursuit of economic interests. As long as they can make money, They ignore everything else and do whatever it takes. A netizen commented, "Officials simply don't take the lives of Chinese people seriously." Rotten construction projects in residential areas are endless. Online videos show many cracks in the walls of a 30-story building, with the largest crack as wide as a fist. The walls are filled with foam. This crack is wide enough for the reporter to fit 4 fingers into it. A pillar of the 30-story building was broken, and 4 fingers could fit into the gap. The owners, frightened, demanded to check out. Upon inspection, the reporter saw cracks in multiple parts of the building. In the photos, you can see a wall on the 5th floor connected to the main structure of the house. Upon closer inspection, some owners discovered the cracked wall was actually filled with foam. To confirm, the reporter used tools to break open the wall, revealing large amounts of foam. The developer responded that this wall is not load-bearing but decorative, claiming the cracks would not affect the building's structural integrity. However, the owners argued this concerns the safety of all residents, and even minor issues could lead to catastrophic consequences. Later, surveyors tested the building's slope and found that the developer had not checked the soil density. The soft soil caused the foundation to sink, leading to the large cracks. Reporter: "Why is this bone loose?" Technician: "It was filled in after the building was constructed." Reporter: "The ground was not compacted. It was built on loose soil, and even the backfilled soil was not compacted. Over time, rainwater soaked the soil, creating pressure that caused cavities to collapse, leading to significant settlement." Apparently, the developer failed to evaluate the soil conditions before construction, disregarding the owner's safety entirely. When owners saw that they had spent their life savings on such a house, they were deeply distressed. They demanded refunds from the developer, but their requests were denied. The owners insisted they would not live there under any circumstances. Coincidentally, in the recently delivered residential complex Jixinyuan in Pingtan, Fujian Province, load-bearing walls were found cut through, putting the building at risk of collapse. Owners are now afraid to move in. Take a look. The entire suspended pillar on site is hollow. Can you see it? This piece of stone can be peeled off with your hands. Pingtan isn't big, but it's creating a myth. Given the chance to build a structure, they've created a suspended building. When owners entered the building, their expressions were like those caught in the rain. Some approached cautiously, fearing the pillar might suddenly give way and bury everyone with a loud crash. The builders, however, appeared calm, as if to say this is their newly developed suspension technology, claiming to lead the world. Rotten construction projects like these are widespread in China. On July 9th, all balconies from the 1st to 4th floors of a 7-story residence in Liaoyuan City, Jilin Province, fell off. The exposed balcony bricks revealed no steel bars. Heavy machinery arrived to remove the remaining balconies on the upper floors. Some professionals commented, "Why do urban balconies keep collapsing?" After carefully reviewing the video, a netizen noted, "I didn't see any steel bars connecting the balconies to the floors." Under the CCP's corrupt system, projects are subcontracted through various layers, with most of the funds siphoned off by corrupt officials. Construction companies are left with minimal budgets, making it common practice to cut corners and skimp on materials. Home is not safe, nor is the outside. On October 3rd, 2022, the road surface of Chaohe Pedestrian Street in Qijiang, Chongqing, suddenly collapsed. Since the location was near a mass transit station, many passers-by failed to react in time and fell into the septic tank beneath the road. The scene was so foul that onlookers instinctively covered their noses. However, several brave bystanders, undeterred by the stench, pulled those who fell into the septic tank back to safety. Fortunately, no casualties were reported.
Shattered ceilings, walls splitting apart, towers leaning on the brink of collapse, millions of lives caught in the danger zone. Welcome to China Undercover, where we reveal the stories the state doesn't want you to hear. These apartments were once marketed as modern, safe, and symbols of China's new urban dream. But the dream has turned into a nightmare. Behind glossy brochures and glittering skylines lies a deadly truth. Homes built with weak materials, rushed deadlines, and almost no accountability. For decades, China's cities have risen at breakneck speed. Shiny towers replaced rice fields, developers promised world-class living, and state media paraded these buildings as proof of national strength. But the rush to build faster and cheaper came at a price: safety. The nickname tofu projects spread online, comparing these fragile buildings to tofu, solid-looking, but crumbling at the slightest touch. Now the cracks, literally, are impossible to hide. Videos flood Chinese social media showing brand new apartments riddled with wide fractures, ceilings collapsing in the night, and concrete falling onto terrified families. In Changsha, a family of 3 barely survived when part of their high-rise ceiling crashed down while they slept. In Ningbo and Qingdao, luxury towers less than 5 years old were evacuated after tilting foundations put residents at risk of a deadly collapse. Even relocation housing in rural counties, built as poverty alleviation projects, has proven disastrous. Heavy rains have caused roofs to cave in, flooding homes and leaving families with nothing. The tragedy isn't just structural, it's human. Families who poured their life savings into these apartments are now trapped. They can't sell, they can't move, and they live every day with fear that the building around them could give way. Developers often vanish or declare bankruptcy, leaving no one to take responsibility. Legal action is slow and hopeless. Protests break out but are quickly silenced. In Sichuan, residents demanding answers for collapsing ceilings were dispersed by police within an hour. Internationally, shocking footage of collapsing towers in Shenzhen has spread despite Chinese censorship, fueling global outrage. Experts say the country's obsession with, for decades, real estate has been the backbone of household wealth and local government revenue in China. But today, that very foundation is cracking, not just in concrete and steel, but in public trust. Safety checks are being rolled out under public pressure, yet few believe they will bring real change. Why? Because in the past, these so-called investigations often ended with vague promises and no accountability. In some shocking cases, the same companies that built the defective towers were hired to inspect their own projects. This crisis is no longer about tofu-dreg buildings alone. It's about a broken system where greedy developers, corrupt officials, and a legal system stacked against ordinary citizens collide. At its core lies collusion. Contracts won through bribes, safety violations signed off with a stamp, and regulatory bodies serving political agendas instead of the people. For local governments desperate to boost GDP numbers, speed and quantity take priority, while quality becomes an afterthought. The result? Towers built with cheap cement, recycled steel, and walls so thin they can barely withstand seasonal rains. Workers are underpaid, untrained, and pushed to finish projects at record speed. On paper, China's building codes look strict, but in practice, inspections are rushed, manipulated, or ignored entirely. In rural areas, approval often comes down to nothing more than a rubber stamp. And when cracks appear or ceilings collapse, censorship makes sure the public never hears the full story. Videos vanish, posts are deleted, and anyone who dares to speak out risks punishment for spreading rumors. These forces feed off one another. Corruption hides cost-cutting breeds collapse, and censorship buries the truth. The cycle repeats endlessly, creating a housing market full of hidden dangers, where even brand new apartments can be ticking time bombs. Without deep reforms in governance and accountability, these disasters will only multiply as aging tofu projects begin to fail across the country. But the collapse of trust is not just structural, it's personal. Homes, once considered the safest and most valuable investment for Chinese families, have turned into financial traps. Apartments bought for over $300 per square meter are now worth half that, or worse, unsellable. Yet, owners must keep paying mortgages while also covering rent or costly repairs. For middle-class families, this double burden is devastating. In cities like Shenzhen and Harbin, entire buildings have been evacuated, leaving hundreds of families stranded in shelters or budget hotels with no compensation and no justice. Developers often file for bankruptcy to escape responsibility, while governments shuffle displaced residents into remote, substandard housing, tearing them away from their towns, schools, and communities. This is not just a story of weak walls and falling ceilings. It's the unraveling of trust in an industry that touches every Chinese household, and a looming threat to both public safety and the stability of China's economy. The hidden cost of China's collapsing towers isn't only in broken concrete, it's in the minds of the people forced to live inside them. Imagine trying to sleep beneath a cracked ceiling, or putting your child to bed in a room where the walls might give way at any moment. Some families take turns staying awake through the night, terrified the building could collapse while they sleep. The constant tension wears people down, leading to insomnia, depression, and serious health problems that no doctor can cure. But perhaps the most devastating damage is invisible: the collapse of trust. Real estate represents nearly 70% of household wealth in China, yet faith in the housing market and in the government's ability to protect its citizens is rapidly eroding. Once that trust is gone, the entire economy trembles. Young people, already priced out of home ownership, may simply walk away from buying altogether. And when that happens, one of the main pillars of China's economic model begins to crumble. As cracks spread across more buildings, anger is boiling over. Residents are no longer silent. They are organizing protests, filing lawsuits, and demanding accountability. But these voices are often met with police crackdowns, which only deepens people's sense of powerlessness. In rural regions where state relocation projects are failing at alarming rates, bitterness toward local officials is rising sharply. The fallout goes far beyond the families who lose their homes. Developers vanish behind bankruptcy filings. Banks face waves of mortgage defaults, local governments lose property taxes, and small businesses in evacuated neighborhoods suddenly find their streets deserted. This is not just a housing problem, it is a collapse of stability that reaches into every corner of daily life. The true cost is measured not only in the occasional disaster, but in the slow erosion of financial security, mental health, and trust in the system itself. If profit continues to outweigh safety, how many more families will watch their dreams disintegrate into dust? What was once dismissed as a few isolated accidents has now revealed itself as a structural disease at the core of China's development model. Every tower standing today could be tomorrow's evacuation zone. Yet censorship silences victims, deletes videos, and shields the very contractors responsible. Without transparency, lessons aren't learned. The same low standards are copied across provinces, guaranteeing that the cycle repeats. And this crisis isn't confined within China's borders. As Beijing pushes its Belt and Road Initiative abroad, questions grow darker. If homes in China are falling apart within years, what about the highways, dams, and railways being exported overseas? What hidden cracks might appear tomorrow in cities from Africa to Southeast Asia? Time is running out. Each year, unsafe towers remain inhabited, the odds of sudden catastrophe rise. Unless the system is rebuilt from the ground up, millions will continue living with the knowledge that their homes, meant to be safe havens, are one storm, one tremor, one unlucky night away from tragedy. China's tofu projects are not just a scandal. They are a ticking time bomb over millions of lives. If ignored, the next collapse could claim not dozens, but hundreds in an instant. That's why these stories must be told, because silence doesn't just hide the danger, it cements it in place. China's real estate market is collapsing at an alarming pace. Property values have plunged 30 to 50%, wiping out wealth for millions of homeowners. Major developers are declaring bankruptcy or being delisted, unable to meet debts. Construction sites lie abandoned, half-finished, a stark reminder of broken promises. Investor confidence has evaporated, leaving the market paralyzed. Every signal points to a path toward total collapse. Once booming skyscrapers now stand as monuments to failure. Housing that was supposed to secure families' futures is losing value daily. Banks face rising defaults, and local governments watch tax revenues vanish. The domino effect hits suppliers, contractors, and small businesses. Corruption, mismanagement, and greed have left the system brittle. China's property sector is hurtling toward the edge, and no one knows when it will fall.